My name is Kerry Roberts, and I appreciate you being here today to talk about this Fresh Start legislation that we have that we're introducing this year in the 110th General Assembly, as you can see, in bipartisan fashion. We've got Representative Parkinson, Minority Leader Harris, myself, Kerry Roberts, Chairman Faison, and Representative DeBerry. I'm going to make a very brief comment about this legislation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Faison to speak, and then the other members will also have an opportunity to speak. Then when we're done, we'll take questions. After everyone's had a chance to speak, we'll take questions, and you're welcome to direct those questions to whichever member you'd like to address it to. The problem that we're trying to solve is this. People are incarcerated as punishment for a crime. They pay their debt to society, they leave their incarceration, and then they're punished a second time. They're punished a second time because they're not allowed to be licensed for the profession that they either already have experience in or a profession that they may like to undertake. So the opportunity to be a productive member of society is often denied to them. And as you might imagine, that increases the opportunity for recidivism and that they might return to jail someday. So the goal of this legislation is to simply say that if you have been convicted of a crime and you've paid your debt to society, we want to create an opportunity in Tennessee for you to be able to go to work and to be a productive member of society, to be licensed in the profession of your choice or your passion or your skill set. That's our goal with this legislation, and with that brief introduction, I'll turn it over to Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Good afternoon. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote, and each one of you will remember the story, The Scarlet Letter. And the community rejected a woman who had great value to society, and they put a scarlet letter on her and destroyed her life. Somehow we in America will take a man or a woman and put a scarlet letter on a person who's committed a victimless crime, and we give them some sort of recognition and identity that mars their production the rest of their life. I've got some of my good friends here from Memphis, Dr. DeBerry, my buddy Dr. Parkinson here. There is a similarity between Appalachian boys and girls and inner city Memphis girls and boys. And I know that would come as a shock to some of y'all for me to even say that, but I've got permission from Mr. Antonio to say that. And what I mean is we have children who maybe have a single parent home or a no parent home. They don't have good home training. Drugs are rampant in East Tennessee or in Memphis. Their home life is terrible, and for all practical purposes, society might have failed them. And they get in some trouble, do a victimless crime, and now the rest of their life, they have a record. And in Tennessee, if you have a record and you want to get a vocational license, it doesn't matter. And then we as conservatives say, hey, we want you to get off the welfare rolls, get off a food stamp, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work. Well, when society has tied you down to the ground, how are you going to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get to work? So what I'm attempting to do is allow society to back up, give somebody a chance at freedom, and if they committed a victimless crime, accept themselves, which surely I don't know if the government should ever even have a role in protecting me from me, but if they committed a victimless crime, let's give them a chance to better themselves. Let's give them a chance, the tools in their belt. We've made it to where they can go to school now, vocational school. Let's let them get a license, start a business. Thank you for being here, and I'm sure maybe one of my brothers might have something they'd like to add.
Sure. So my name is Lee Harris, Democrat, also from Memphis, and I'm pleased and honored to be here with Senator Roberts and Chairman Faison for this discussion of the legislation. So this is about a comprehensive crime reduction strategy. And there are many parts to reducing crime. On the one hand, there is prevention, which is investment in kids and so forth to make sure they have options. There's law enforcement, which we're all familiar with. And there's also reentry. And that is not often talked about, but that is often the most important piece to an effective crime reduction strategy. We know that 90% of the folks that are in prisons right now will return to our communities. And if we don't have something for them to do in terms of gainful employment, they will recidivate. So this legislation is about aiding them. I think we've seen bills like this on both sides of the aisle. I know last year, Representative Thompson and I proposed a bill to make it easier to get a certificate of employability. I think this is a larger project. I think this could have more significant impact, and so I'm hopeful that it will get momentum and will pass. I'm told that there are 13,000 felons who are released from jails or prison in Tennessee. There are 2,200 that are released in Shelby County. That is a lot of folks that are returning to our communities, and what better way to make sure that they don't return back to prison than giving them an opportunity to gain licensure so that they can get a job and take care of their families. According to the National Employment Law Project, there are 70 million people in the U.S. that have a record. That's 1 in 3 adults. And this is a large part of our community, and we cannot deny it. We have to. If we're going to reduce crime, we have to do some work on the reentry side of that. So I'm grateful to Senator Roberts, Faison, Representative DeBerry, and also Representative Parkinson for inviting me to participate in this bipartisan approach. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity, and Chairman Faison, I appreciate you including myself and others from Shelby County. Senator, thank you. There are over 1,000 barriers that will keep an individual from returning to productive citizenship after coming out of incarceration. Over 1,000 traps that will send them back into the penal system. And this idea, this strategy, it will remove a huge barrier from some of those citizens. And I applaud Chairman Faison and the Senator for bringing this legislation. I just differ with Chairman Faison just a hair in regards to some of these children not having home training. A lot of these children do have home training. A lot of these children, though, are in desperation mode because of poverty. That's where the similarities are, between the children of Appalachian and the children of Shelby County and some of the communities in other parts of Tennessee. When you're dealing with survival, being in survival mode, there's no one in this room that can say what they would not do. If you have not been there, if you ever have an opportunity to experience, the instability and the ills that come with poverty, that sinks you into a desperate place to where you're surviving either to feed your children, or you're surviving to feed yourself, or you're surviving to survive. Those are the things that cause individuals to make rash decisions that cause them to be incarcerated, thus receiving that scarlet letter of that F on their chest. In Tennessee, we are the worst when it comes to giving people an opportunity to reestablish themselves and get back to life. We are the worst. We have more things. I sit on the criminal committee, and I listen to the legislation, and I listen to individuals. I had an individual that came up to me, Chairman Faison, this guy was 70 years old. He got a felony when he was 19. He was pouring concrete in one of my houses. He said, Antonio, man, I received a felony when I was 19, and I'm 70 today, and I'm still wearing that felony. So this is why I have to do this kind of work, and this is what I've been doing. I hadn't been in trouble since. But we make it really, really hard for individuals to get back to life. Now, we have to ask ourselves, we say we want to reduce crime and we want to reduce recidivism, but we have to put our money, we have to talk the talk and walk the walk, and not just give lip service to the citizens of Tennessee, acting like we want to reduce recidivism and acting like we want to give these individuals an opportunity to get back to life. We're talking about individuals with victimless crimes. They victimize themselves. I always say you got 2 types of crimes, Chairman, Senator. You got crimes that make you mad, and you got crimes that make you scared. We need to be working on rehabilitating those folks that irritate us a little bit and getting them back to life. Thank you.
At the end of the day, we have a system that we cannot sustain. We can't continue to just lock up every knucklehead that does something stupid. So at some point in time, we got to kind of take an introspective examination of ourselves as a society and ask what's best for society, what's best for our budget, and what's best for that individual. I too talked to a gentleman who had committed a crime 25 years ago. Good man, deacon in his church, had found a good woman who was very supportive, had a nice home between the two of them, and they were doing well, but he was still a felon. And every time he filled out a job application, it came up. And you know, it's his fault. We're not saying that he's not at fault and that he didn't commit the crime. But at some point in time, the debt has to be paid. And this, I think, is what we're talking about. At some point, the debt has to be paid if an individual has truly tried to reintegrate themselves into society. Plus the fact that we are too representative. There's too much minority representation in that system. And this is another thing we got to look at and ask ourselves, are we being fair? Now we're going to celebrate a man. I heard him make his last speech when I was 15 years old, years ago. And one of the things that he said during the course of his leadership in America is that he hoped that his little children would one day be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. If a man comes out who knows he made a mistake, a woman comes out of jail who knows they made a mistake, they knew they were wrong, they're not blaming anybody, they messed up. And if they're willing to accept the responsibility for their actions and their behaviors and do everything we ask them to do so that they are accepted, they can start their life over, and they can go on with life as a productive tax-paying citizen, why in the world would we get in the way of that person doing that? That's not smart for us as a society. So this bill is just simply, and I applaud the senator and representative for this bill. I applaud them because basically it says, you know what, we can continue on with this hard-on crime and this unyielding lock 'em up, shoot 'em up attitude that we had all during the 90s. Or at some point in time, we can ask ourselves, do we want to build schools or do we want to continue to build prisons? And at that particular time, when we look at ourselves as a society, we're the ones not being smart. We're the ones not being smart. And so this bill says, be smart. If this person has proven themselves that their character is good, they made a mistake, they were having a bad day, whatever the reason, they paid their debt to society, they've gone through their parole period, they've done everything we asked them to do. Good gracious, let them make a living. Let them make a living. And that's all this is about.
Thank you. Let me take questions. You can direct them to whoever you wish, and then I'll have a closing comment. Questions?
One of the victimless crimes, I presume, drug offenses would be the top of the list.
Is that directed to anybody in particular? So,
Whoever would like to take it.
address that?
Chris, we took out the A and B felonies, so it's C felonies and down. And there's actually some vocational license that I've been told, even if you have a Class A misdemeanor, you can't get a license, some vocational license. So we're taking all of that out.
Like just examples of the crime itself, rather than the number or the letter.
Robbery without a weapon, just breaking into somebody's house, breaking and entering.
Vandalism.
Drugs,
Bad checks.
bad checks. That's a huge one right there, bad checks, something like that.
Other questions? Let me make this comment in closing. I hope when you see us standing here that you don't see Republican and Democrat. I hope you don't see black and white. I hope you see Tennesseans. You know, in today's political environment, we all lament what takes place in Washington, how people seem to be full of hate and animosity and can't get along, can't get anything accomplished. We're here to say to the people of Tennessee that we represent you, we represent all of you, and we're working on your behalf. We think this is common sense legislation that has a very positive impact on Tennessee and a very positive impact on Tennesseans, and we want to lead the nation in showing people what it looks like when a General Assembly comes together, focuses on what they agree on, sets aside what they disagree on, and does something for the good of the state, for the good of the people. So thank you for being here today.
Last question.
Yep.
Do you have a sense?
It's too late, Chris, I'm sorry.
Will be affected by this?
The question is how many people will be affected. We don't know. We don't know. We know that the numbers are, as Leader Harris pointed out, that we have over 10,000 people that potentially could be affected, but how many people actually are affected, we
Yearly.
don't know yet. But what we do know is this, is that we often, in our offices, we deal with a constituent at a time that has a frustration dealing with the state. And I tell you what, when you solve that one person's problem, you've really made a difference in somebody's life. And I would imagine that this could be in the dozens or the hundreds. I don't know that it would be in the thousands. I just don't know. But the cumulative impact of that over the next 25 years, the rest of our lifetime, is going to be significant, and it's going to be generational. And that's a key thing to look at, because if someone, and again, we're invoking, in effect, the biblical concept. There's a biblical word, tetelestai, and when Jesus hung on the cross, he said, "It is finished." And that word is, it's paid in full. That's an invoice where somebody has stamped paid in full. And we're trying to say to somebody, if you have paid your debt to society, it truly is paid in full. And you can go back to work, and as somebody referenced, we're trying to keep people from being dependent on the system. We're trying to allow somebody to be a productive citizen, because what we know is when they are on food stamps, on government assistance with housing, those are pervasive in nature, and they're generational in nature. If mom and dad are living on welfare, the child is probably going to live on welfare. And this is the cycle that we're trying to break, and this is just one small action that we can take. It may not affect thousands, but the ones that it does affect, it'll be very significant. Anything else?
Thank you.
We're going to work on the air conditioning for next time. So, thank you all for being here.
Leslie.